Hi. Hello. Welcome to episode 2 of... What did I call it?
I don't remember.
Something. The podcast with me, Walter K. and... Vibin. Clap
The
test.
bit continues.
With Vibe here. And, last time we had a very concise, topic of the whole, Tinder thing. We vaguely have a topic now. So, yay. We're talking about words.
Internet memes.
Internet words. Internet word memes. Because of, the comment on the last one and the video I did about incels, which we can, start on there because we have some disagreements, I think.
We did, yes. I ended up texting you an entire, what was it, a 10 minutes audio message hey, I don't agree with you on this.
Yeah, and I was responding to it while I was running to a bus, so I was kind of dying, but, we got that. We got some other words we want to talk about, but, let's not get ahead of ourselves, so, my thoughts on the word incel, I'll quickly summarize from that video, which is, it's a word which might have at one point had some intended meaning, but I really dislike, but this is semantically, I dislike the word incel itself because it's involuntary celibacy, and those are essentially oxymorons, but that's me being super pedantic. When it comes to the actual meaning and culture behind it, I really despise it. I despise the community around that word, and I hate what happens to people when they start to identify with that word. I think it's just a downward spiral sort of thing, so yeah.
How much research did you do on that video?
0.
I could tell. I looked at that video and I was you did more research for Genshin than you did on this video.
Yeah.
Because when you posted that Genshin video, I was you're gonna, I was expecting you to get something wrong. You started talking, and then you were oh yeah, the area got released, and I was please don't say Natlan, please don't say Natlan. And you were Sumido, I'm
No, I got that right. Because I guess I care about Genshin more than I care about incels, but it was less so the point. I was very much going after the community now. I was not interested in doing research about the origins or anything.
About the community itself, I don't think you got anything wrong per se, because for the previous video that we did, I said myself that I used to identify with the term, or I didn't, but now as an adult I'm yeah, I can acknowledge the fact that I was an incel.
Yeah, in hindsight, yeah.
Plus on top of that, I can definitely say I was a pick-me.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. But I now am okay with calling myself an incel back then because I know where the term kind of originates from. Mm-hmm. How much do you know about it? Because I know that I sent you in a voice message hey, this is the actual reason why it got created.
As I recall, you said it was something to do with a female, a femoid,
yes.
Telling, assigning this term to the community that was sort of bubbling up on 4chan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she called it the whole celibacy, suddenly words are missing from my brain.
Involuntary?
Yes, involuntary celibacy. And it was created for the purpose of people who cannot be in control of how much physical kind of action they get. They just create they have this group on 4chan where they can communicate with each other and then kind of solve that problem. It was definitely created with good intentions in mind. The very core, the very beginning of it was not with evil intentions, and people were kind of nice there as well. They understood why they were called that, and mm-hmm. they understood what was happening. Of course, there are people who did go to that 4chan and just start whining instead of using it for what it was created for.
Yeah.
But it had good intentions, that's for sure. And then basically the term got shortened and now it is what it is now with like dudes.
Yeah.
Like where it's basically the kind of toxic mindset of like when you think of like an involter, so obviously like an incel, like it's the negatives of like what you were speaking of specifically.
So yeah, I mean, I did at the end compare it to the whole Gamergate thing. How much do you know about that?
Don't know that much. No.
Okay, so I'm not even gonna try to get the years right. This all like blurs together in like just a mess. But this was during the time when there was this whole huge movement of SJWs and anti-SJWs and oh, you know how now like people really are very willing to make fun of anyone who goes, oh, this video game is so woke because pronouns. You know, back then, it was more pronounced that there were people like really making careers that they're still banking on right now of being like, how, oh my god, women in video game, what the hell?
There's still that happening.
Yeah, I'm saying they and a lot of them are cruising.
That whole thing of like when Horizon, I think Zero Dawn more specifically got released, when like Aloy's design got released, and everyone was like, specific dudes were like, yeah, this is not how a real woman looks like.
Yeah, that was, I'm saying, and a lot of them are cruising for like a decade on because they have not moved on from the shit they were doing. Around Gamergate, and the very abridged version of the Gamergate story is, and here I'm obviously not doing research, I'm just saying how I remember it. There was a case of a video game review site, might have been Metacritic, I genuinely don't remember, that was giving higher, there was a specific reviewer, a female reviewer, giving higher reviews to certain games, and then it turned out that there was some romantic involvement there, that there was some banging going on, and that was a part of why those games were getting higher reviews. And so there were people that went into this argument, this situation, saying essentially like, you know, we need to talk about, and this phrase became like a meme for a decade, ethics in video games journalism, which admittedly, even though it legitimately was that at first, I will say that from the get-go, it's a really fucking funny phrase, because who the fuck cares about video game journalism? Who the hell cares about video game... anyway, but it started as that, and then it spiraled out of control, because essentially a bunch of bad actors, a bunch of bad dudes came in and twisted that to instead be about... oh, well, clearly this is a sign that women don't belong in video gaming. Like, this is clearly what they do. They infect things, they ruin things, they're gonna ruin my hobby, they're gonna ruin my games, no! And so it took off more in that direction. And now, the same as with Incel, even though there was a core group at the beginning that was like, you know, had like genuine intentions, wanted to fix an actual issue, the specific thing that had happened, at this point, if someone says, oh, you know, I'm sort of follow the whole Gamergate thing, especially like fucking 10 years later, you gotta be like, ooh.
I'd say, going back on your previous video about incels, I also do not agree with you saying that technically you were an incel because of your schedule.
What I meant by that is that I personally think there are very, very few things that make someone what would be described like what I would consider to be an incel with an emphasis on the involuntary part. I think because like a lot of it is just self-imposed.
I don't think so.
Well, I understand.
That's where I like heavily disagree with you, because what causes you to become involuntary celibates is when there are horrible circumstances in your life. Like, specifically at, like, early times of your life, where, like, you're more dependent on your parents, where the amount of social interactions you get, either at school or anywhere, is extremely limited, so you do not learn how social interactions in general work. Meaning that when you start stepping into adulthood, and you do want these physical interactions with people, you can't physically achieve them because you do not have the knowledge to, basically the riz I guess, to do that, and that's what it makes it involuntary.
Okay, yeah, yes, but the point I sort of make with that is that yeah, obviously that's the big issue with a lot of these people, that the social the lack of socialization, and that's sort of also what I like speak about in the first couple of episodes of the Tinder series in general. But I sort of see it, there are like two paths, well, obviously more, but there are multiple paths you can take. You can either say this is involuntary and there's nothing I can do, in which case, you know, you go down the sensible path, or you actually try and look into socializing in some capacity, learning these things. I understand that at that point at the beginning it's still involuntary that you're put in that position, fine, but I don't think it's voluntary to stay. It's involuntary to stay in that position and join that community.
The reason why it rarely happens where you get out of that state is because you yourself do not realize that that's the problem. That is why incels usually immediately go for their like visual appeal, because they're like start posting pictures of like, do I look like good enough to be in a physical relationship, instead of scratching it off as I do not have the experience in social situations. Yeah. It's more of like a physical thing. That's why it's so like strong in this community specifically, of like just pictures of like, or there's another route where it's immediately like a pick me of like, yeah, but I'm ugly, you start fishing for compliments.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, while it is, I personally, like, as I said previously, I was kind of, when talking about Tinder, I was fishing for these people.
Mm-hmm.
The reason wasn't because, like, oh, it would be kind of funny to make fun of a person who is an incel. It's more in the aspect of, these are, like, 25, 30-year-olds, maybe even older, who at this point, it's kind of like a place of no return anymore. And they're using not kids, but like teens who are kind of in a similar situation where they are not kind of socialized, and they start basically grooming and all that. Those were the people that I was going after.
Yeah.
Not openly going after it. If I were to run into a person and they would start doing these things to me, I would immediately be like, well, but like karma is just a prominent thing, like just go after them basically.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't openly, like, go through, like, this person looks like this person looks like that, because quite often you can't even, like, visually tell. Because I was making a joke previously, like, you can visually tell. Not really.
Yeah.
They could look like a really cool person, like, and then you start chatting, and I had one incident, I'm obviously not going to use the name of the person.
Yeah.
But, they started texting me, and like off the bat, first day of us texting, starts calling me princess, baby girl, blah blah blah.
Oh, that's
and then I later find out that there are allegations against this person, and then they started piecing the dots of they attempted that to me as well.
Yeah.
Started trying to get me into these situations where I would be vulnerable, so I was like, I'm gonna get my share out of this entire situation and just leave. You emotionally damaged me, so I'm gonna just take something from your wallet and dip. Because they were like, as much as I like currently am memeing about it, they were quite not pleasant situations.
Right,
so that's like, I feel like I didn't go more into depth about that like when we were like first time talking. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to keep it lighthearted, like everyone has had like certain situations where it's like, I mean, you can laugh about it now, but like previously, like, it was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It was genuinely like not enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's like I also feel like you mentioned the whole like grooming aspect. I think it's like there's both the literal aspect where they try to groom someone into being in like interested in a relationship with them. But I also think there's genuinely this, like, and that's another part of the community that I find really toxic and awful, and that's something I bring up, is how they kind of groom, like, teenagers, like 15-year-olds who are very young, like, and are just, oh, I'm 15, I haven't had a girlfriend yet, am I doomed? And they're like, yes, you are, actually. Yeah, come join us. Join our cesspool right here.
It's not even that, actually, in this current state that, like, social media or, like, the world is in general, certain groups of young people, like 15, 17-year-olds, up to 20 sometimes even, they, you know, like, it is much easier to go for them when it comes to, like, people who you would describe as incels because they do not have enough life experience to realize, hey, this situation's kind of fucked. You think it's all okay, you start, like, being lulled into this dream, and then at some point it's just too late to leave. And you get, like, threatened with, like, you know, them ending their life or like something, and that's like the horrific end of everything. That's also the reason why, like, on the Tinder video I was like, yeah, like, when you're below 18, just don't use the website.
Right,
even like during 18, I wouldn't even recommend.
Yeah, it's bad, and it's like you mentioned, social media, it's and children, it's a bad combo. Like, I've mentioned how I'm aware of, you know, freaking 11-year-olds that try to flex that they listen to Andrew Tate or something, like, genuinely. It's really goddamn bad. Where,
but it's not even like the like hookup sites or like, you know, like Tinder or like Bumble or whatever, right? Because like the same last video we talked about, you know, like dating through gaming, right? And I brought up Genshin for this, like, as a joke, but it's not even a joke, because I think, like, when I started playing Genshin, or like I was in the middle of it, you quite often get like requests like, can I join your world? From strangers, and I usually accept them because I'm higher level, and I think like, okay, if it's another person who's high level, then they probably need help with something, character building wise or something like that.
Yeah.
So I accept it usually, and this one time I accepted it, and it was this dude who immediately was like, do you have a boyfriend? How old are you? And just like coming extremely strongly, like out of the gate immediately. And it concerned me a bit. I did still help them out with like anything that didn't, because they were like also asking for help, but at the same time they were like, hey, yeah, like, where are you from and stuff like that. It was creepy. Yeah. And then a few months after that, again I get an invite, and it's not the same person, and I like accept it. And we start chatting, and it's like, can you help with this, that? And I started noticing weird speech patterns from this person, so I like ask, how old are you? Because usually that is my concern. Because I don't really like interacting with people below 18. Yeah. Sometimes even 18-year-olds, I'm like, hard to talk to, you know?
Minors DNI.
Yeah. And this person goes, I'm 10. And I immediately have a flashback to that previous conversation I had with that dude, and I was like, okay, I'm a stranger to you, but please do not, like, be careful. Yeah. Like, I know we don't know each other, this is the first time we ever talked during the game, but be careful for, And I always get so worried. And then, like, 2 days ago, again, I this time I asked too, because I needed some advice. I joined, and we immediately start chatting about this, and the person goes, yeah, I almost never accept, like, requests to join. And I was, like, the rare one that they did accept. We had, like, a normal conversation about, like, random builds and stuff like that. But it was, I think, one of the most normal conversations I had ever had in Genshin. Yeah. So and thinking back, like, there's a lot of games that are, like, similar like this.
Yeah, I was thinking, as you were telling the story, I was thinking of, this has definitely been going on for quite a while, in quite goofy ways as well. Sometimes, like, there's this specific Flash game. It's called Plasma Burst 2. It's like a shooty platformer game that had multiplayer, and it's on its website. And I played quite a lot of it. It was a very fun one. And, people made their own servers to play games on custom maps and so on. regularly on the daily. When it was still active, it's dead as hell right now. But when it was active, there would be just kids setting up servers titled "Looking for GF," like straight up like looking for a girlfriend on these games, and like obviously like a part of it is just just like for the game, I guess, but like on just setting up relationships within.
But I feel like currently in the like social media or in general, the whole concept of like being in a relationship is kind of outdated a bit. Not okay. Wrong word. More of like you must. Like you have to have no matter what age, because I remember like when I was 12, I was like, oh my god, I'm behind everyone. Like I have never had a boyfriend. I got my first boyfriend when I was 14. And it was not the best one, definitely. And then like the train wreck of like horrible relationships continued from there, definitely. Because I kind of am grateful that I did go through those experiences, because now I know better. But still, the idea of being in these horrible situations, because I kind of caught peer pressure. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, you get peer pressured into this idea that you have to have a partner. You have to be physical with them. You have to do this, and that, because the whole thing of like, now kids are like looking up adult content at age 10. I have seen 10-year-olds smoke on streets. Or ask me, like, hey, like, are you above 18? Could you buy me, like, juice for a vape? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. Very different perspective compared to yours, because for me, up until, like, the 9th grade, I didn't know a single guy who had any, like who had a girlfriend or anything. Like, in my class ever, there were never have I experienced anyone in the class dating each other. That was never a thing in any grade I've been in. Never had, like, I knew some girls had, like, partners outside of school.
That's rare.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, it's, like, a very different experience. But when it comes to things like smoking and drinking, yeah, I had classmates who had been smoking since they were 11 or 12, yes. I had classmates who had been drinking for that long. Like, to the point where even teachers sort of acknowledge, like, okay, you're gonna be smoking, just don't do it before my class, I fucking hate how it smells.
We had a girl who got kicked out of the classroom because she reeked of cigarettes. Yeah. At the same time, I guess I'm also like in the bad criteria, considering that I started smoking at 17. But it's not.
It's not at 11. Yes.
I think I was like half a year before I turned 18. Actually, it was quite, like, compared to everyone else, quite late.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad for. That at least it was 17.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now when like either my sibling or their friends ask me, hey, like, when did you start smoking, or like what would you say, like, if I were to start smoking, I would immediately be like, please don't.
Yeah.
Because I currently am like heavily regretting, because I have been vaping for 4 years. Yeah, it's gonna be 4 years. And I'm not happy about it, because it's like an addiction that, like, with vaping, it's extremely, like, much more difficult to get rid of than, like, smoking, in my opinion. Because you're addicted to the flavor. That, like, oh yeah, it's like the feeling of nicotine plus the flavor. And it's not, it's not it.
Yeah, it's like, well, the last thing I want to add is that, like, about just completely different perspectives, like, I mean, yeah, I was single until I was 22? I think 22, something like that, or 23 even. Yeah, I had turned 23, and I was single until then, and I never also, like, I was the person who never really felt the need for it in the first
place.
place.
Yeah, I think you were more goal-driven, like back when we met.
Yeah.
Like you were on Tinder, yeah, like we met through Tinder. However, it wasn't like with the intent, like even on our first date, I remember it wasn't with the intent of like, yeah, and we're gonna date. Which is quite often on like the case in Tinder in general. Like you start talking, you kind of click off and it's immediately like, skip the friendship, we're gonna date.
Yeah. I mean...
and I hated that. And like with you, I kind of got worried as well that it's gonna be the case. But yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, I was on, the reason I was on Tinder was because at that point, the reason I was on Tinder was I was working as a cashier and I was bored. I even specifically remember messaging you like on Tinder as like the shift was ending and was like, I guess I could message someone. Like that was.
I was just a random fucking.
Well, I think you were a recent match because you had some like anime stuff in the background of a picture or whatever, and I think I commented on it.
Might have had some cosplays.
Maybe, yeah, and it's
maybe,
like
because that's like a prominent thing that I have like of like either it's like some exaggerated look like cutesy, or like it's more of like cosplays put in because it's like a conversation starter or that.
Yeah.
Like if you care enough, you're gonna ask me like, hey.
Yeah.
And if like there like are some matches who do ask me like, hey, what's that cosplay that you're doing? I can see how much you care based on how you ask the question, because I have had people like, is that like a Chinese? Is that a kimono? It's not, it's a hanfu.
Yeah.
And then when I would answer like, yeah, it's this character from this specific series, it either would continue into a conversation where they have like looked up what the character is and where it's from, where they would ask me like, can you elaborate on it? And it would lead into a normal conversation. But then sometimes it would be like the question of like, who's this character? I would answer
Nothing.
Or like something extremely dry. It's like that thing where like some people send just a single emoji and base you off of like your response of it. Like what do you say to it?
Just gotta respond with another emoji, like I don't know, shrimp emoji. I like the shrimp emoji.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I currently also have a Tinder profile just to, figure things out for the videos. Yeah, I'm not using it genuinely, but it is like constructed as a genuine profile. It has like pictures of me in cosplay as well. I've had.
That's a doozy, isn't it?
Okay.
We'll get into that later.
Two things. One is that it usually it's actually very good to have this because it like shows off your even if you're a guy and male presenting, you have a better experience, I feel like, because you're immediately showing off a hobby that's interesting to people that are interested.
It's not working out.
No, listen, it's not working out because I talked about the algorithm in one of the videos. Oh, you need to swipe a certain amount, and one thing I failed to mention that I should have is that you also counts how much you interact with your matches in the algorithm. Do you message people? Do you just leave them on red? Because I haven't been messaging people, my profile's basically deactivated again. Even though I still like do the swiping part. But I have gotten one really great message, which was essentially, okay, so I have pictures of me in cosplay, and a picture of my cats. So the message I got was, without context of remembering what my profile was, I read it and it said, hey, so, nice cosplays. Are you cosplaying a kitty as well? Then I was like, are you asking if I would? What is going on? Are you offering something here? And then later realized, oh shit, she means the cats in the pictures. That makes sense.
You turned into a cat for the pictures.
Yeah, I'm a Therian.
Okay.
Need to now edit and just have Hades in here instead of me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yippee. So.
We need to move on from the incel topic though.
Oh yeah.
Because that has been a while.
What was the recording at?
Same as yours, it's not.
Oh, it's 30 minutes on incel. And we loop back to Tinder. Hell yeah.
And then this is like part 2 of the Tinder series.
So anyway, speaking of e-girls.
That was such a segue.
Yeah. It was a perfect segue. There are other words. Do we want to talk about e-girls or what?
Talk about about e-girls and e-boys. I don't know that much.
Yeah.
Do you know the extended version of? Because it's a shortening for something, right?
Well, it is. It's just the same as like we have E-class, E-class. It's just the internet.
It's like email.
It's just internet. It's just internet.
So basically, an internet girl.
Yeah, it's an internet girl, an internet boy, internet girl. Does get thrown a lot around, and it's like very related where people will throw around e-girl and OnlyFans girl at this point. It's and including throwing this word at like OnlyFans girl at creators that don't have OnlyFans. Just random. Oh, I saw a woman on the internet. That's an OnlyFans girl. That gotta be. I even seen the. Have you seen? Okay, these comments mostly do show up on like thirst traps and so on that crop up on Instagram where they say like, "Oh, OnlyFans detected, content ignored, opinion rejected, the father left or whatever."
I have never seen that because I don't really get thirst traps unless it's like of characters on like a video game or something.
I mean, I follow a lot of cosplay accounts on Instagram, I guess, so it like blends those two together.
I don't really look through Instagram. I don't care.
It's mostly on Reels, but the point I'm making is that they will leave these comments.
Mm-hmm.
They will also leave these comments when they don't detect OnlyFans. It's like, oh, you have OnlyFans in your description? OnlyFans detected. You don't have OnlyFans in your description? You have no indication of having one of these accounts, and I'm just thinking about you being naked? OnlyFans detected. And it's
okay.
It's I mean it's misogyny, so
yeah.
That's
I don't know. I don't really have like that big of a commentary on specifically like e-boys or e-girls.
Yeah.
Considering that like I have not definitely like done any research or like anything. I know it's it's tied to a fashion sense. Plus like if you're like I think it's the same as like a gamer girl.
Yeah.
Like ooh girl also technically, but I think like. So there are more like subgenres of e-girl specifically.
I think it's just like all those terms are related and basically thrown out at people, at girls, obviously women, who the people assume, oh, whatever you're doing on the internet is like a fake personality. Like it's related to not being authentic and just like, doing whatever you're doing.
Don't quote me on this, but in my personal experience, but I feel like that might be the reason why it's like a bad rap. Like e-girls, don't know if it's like a specific subgenre of them, tend to be extremely pick-me. Like I have had like a couple of people that I used to know, that actually they cosplay as well, that back then I didn't know. But now I know. Like, now I definitely
We're thinking of the same person, right?
Are we?
Are we not? About that person who...
You can censor it out, probably, like, if you were to say the name.
Shit, and then I forgot the name.
Yes.
Yes,
but there's another person.
Oh, there's another one. Okay.
There's another one. And that one, my friend Shrew knows.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. As well. So I was piecing information together, and found out that what I thought was happening was actually happening, and they were a pick-me because they openly went for my boyfriend without me knowing, and that's why we broke up. And it is a scummy situation in general because the person was like horrible, like the guy was like a really horrible person, and I had warned her about him before I even broke up with him, like a few days before, and then months later she comes to me and goes like, oh yeah, like, he was horrible to me, he was manipulative. I'm like...
Gee, how did you know? How did you figure that out?
And honestly, if we're talking about like the bad indications of an incel, I would put him in that category. I would definitely do that. But more of like the pick me side of like incel.
More like the conceptual side than the literal being involuntary celibate.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not the literal that like the
not-
actual.
Not involuntarily celibate, but voluntarily an asshole.
Yes. Exactly.
Good. Got it.
So yeah, those two, and actually, yeah, now that you mentioned that person, they also did the same thing with a different guy that I was dating.
I was gonna say that you're describing this story, but I remember that story about this other person that I was thinking of.
So my experience with e-girls specifically has been
Not the
not
best.
so great. Yeah. And the fact that like the person that you and I were thinking of was at one point an extremely famous artist, especially on YouTube, and just like released a statement saying how like their ex was like I feel like you have to censor that, but you know. And me knowing this person, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I heard more information, and I was like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
I don't care enough.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not gonna say the name. Because, like, those who know. Like, I think that Google Drive of, like, her statement has been removed since. Because I have not found it ever since I read it. When
I
it just
remember
got
the tweet at least was archived. I don't remember the drive thing.
She did a tweet.
Yeah, remember I looked
I don't
through the
follow
archives.
her Twitter. Like, on Twitter, I
But-
do not follow her.
But either way, yeah, you're not gonna say the name for all those reasons. I'm not gonna say the name because I don't fucking remember.
I do remember the name, but like the reason why I'm not
Yeah, I'm
saying it is
saying
because I don't want to like throw kind of like, hey, I'm openly talking about a person that I used to know that I had a horrible experience with, and I think like they're still at it. So I don't see that person ever changing.
Yeah, let's. Oof.
Yeah, it's just I feel like that perfectly describes my. Oh, okay. I think that perfectly describes my experience with e-girls. That is like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have personal experience, so my sort of is limited to those terms being thrown around in the comment sections. But I mean, if we're talking about e-girls, can we also talk about simps?
I feel like that was also an incorrect. Yeah, there was a mix-up. Basically, as far as I know, the original term is a person who is doing not acts of kindness, but like acts of services.
Mm-hmm.
With the intent of grooming you.
The way I heard it initially, but maybe this was already when it was taking off, so it had already changed, was it was being mainly used for people that were really, like, not acts of services, but more like paying people online, like streamers, VTubers, whoever, models, OnlyFans girls, e-girls particularly, with the thought in mind that, you know, if I give enough, maybe I'll be noticed and maybe I'll get my name read out.
I think it's more of like a love bombing type of.
I think it's all just
It's
mixed
a
together.
one-sided.
Yeah, it's a one-sided.
It's a one-sided love bombing. I think.
Yeah,
That's what I mean by acts of services. You pay for things, you like spoil them, and then like the end result is not a good one.
Right.
Yeah, and now I think the term has been twisted into if you love your girlfriend and you are actively putting her on the pedestal of like she's more important than any of your other friends, then you're immediately a simp. Like, your priorities are off. Bros before hoes. Come on.
I think the word simp is just gone through insane waves and fluctuations, because it started off when what we were talking about, then it moved on to, for a while it essentially just meant, oh, you are a fan of this person, you are a fan of this character, you become a simp, like, you know, oh, I follow this a female YouTuber, oh, you're a simp then, you know. And then I personally think, but I mean obviously because it's related to the channel and I did a video on it, it climaxed in how fucking stupid the term was being used with the IDUB situation, where, oh, your girlfriend's now wife has spicy online content, you're a simp. And you're like, where the fuck is the connection between the two terms? Where is the relation?
It is not, no.
Because simp is like, it implied from the beginning, no matter how people like were twisting it, it implied from the beginning that you were hoping to get something you're not gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck is simp being used for people actively in relationships with the people they're supposedly simping for?
Yeah.
It doesn't fucking make sense.
Yeah.
But I mean,
know that my ex was also called a simp for a while, even in our group chats.
But like,
last ex, I'm again not gonna say the name.
Yeah, but I mean, being.
Which I kind of was upset about as well, because I was like, where?
It's like, at the same time, it is also just used humorously. Like, I will, I'm gonna...
I think you have called me a simp at one point.
Oh, absolutely. Was it your username, like, nickname on the server was something simp for a very long time?
Yeah. It still is. I changed it
I think
over and over, because I would change it to like any character that I was obsessed with at the time.
So it's I'm gonna
so I
say
technically use it incorrectly as well.
I'm gonna say a phrase, which feel free if you're watching this, take this as a soundbite, as a short, edit it out of context. Simp is like the N-word. In that, I took it back. If you use it to describe someone derogatory sense, it's still derogatory, obviously. But if you're like, I'm a real simp, and you're, we're both simping for this character, you just chill together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Next step for me is to get you to simp over Genshin characters.
I thought you were gonna say next step is making me say the N-word.
No, next step is me getting you into Star Rail.
Let's not though. I would rather not. The only mobile I would only play it on my phone, and I have
Star Rail is easier on the phone.
I have no intention to play any gachas or anything on my phone. I play Slay the Spire and Toggle. It's all I have and all I need.
Okay. I don't have any games on my phone.
Yeah, because you had to uninstall Genshin to make room for recording.
No, I had Genshin in case I was gone on a trip, and I needed to log in for my primos, like daily primos.
No,
so that's why it was there. I have it on my computer. I don't need it technically on my phone.
Yeah, fair. I guess.
So I'm fine.
I guess. Were there any other terms that we were like gonna discuss?
Yeah, a bit of a side note that I previously, like before we started recording, I mentioned, and you were like, let's leave it for the actual when we start recording, which was the old subgenres. I don't know. The like goths, emo,
subcultures.
Yeah, punks, and like where now it's like you go into a school or like any kind of environment with like, especially younger people will do this, where it's like, oh my god, are you emo because your hair's black and you decided to wear all black that day just because you had nothing else in the closet. I was sitting outside like in the park, and I had like 2 kids come up to me like, are you emo? Like, where it's not the case. It's more of like it's all about music and your kind of day-to-day, like what you do on a daily basis. It's kind of like a...
But I would argue that, especially when it comes to children, how they perceive these like cultures and everything, I think it has always been like that though, because I can tell you when I was a kid, you would see someone dressed in all black and they could be wearing a fucking hoodie.
I wouldn't say, but I wouldn't say it's only kids.
Well,
it is definitely not only kids, because now it's turning into more of like a visual thing.
Well, I do think
goth maybe could be, but even then I'm like.
Well, goth has been okay. Goth, to be fair, is a subculture with like a billion subgenres, where some of them are just you dress a certain different
clothing. It's
no, I mean just even like in terms of like people and their appearances. Even then, there's like a billion different permutations, like cyber
like
goth,
when it starts getting older,
Victorian goth, whatever goth, and I think it's so diluted that there it's like I don't know if you've seen these posts that's like, boys will really be like, oh, I want a goth GF, and they, have like a girl with some piercings and black hair in one picture, and then, on the other picture it's like heavy makeup, whites and blacks, like with all that. And my two comments are always like not comments I leave, because I don't comment on things on the internet. On TikTok, my partner sends me things and I look at them. I don't even leave a like on things. I'm just like, good. I like them in chat. I don't like the actual video, so my algorithm is fucked. But I always think, one, I'm pretty sure that like a majority of the people I know who are like really into goths and goth subculture, appealing wise, romantically, sexually, whatever, physically attracted to these appearances.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most of them are still like gonna look at this image and be like, both. Like I feel like most of them would do that, for one, and two, it's weird to basically see goths who have like a billion subgenres of them, billion subcultures of the subculture, be like, okay, but these ones aren't real goths.
I feel like I get upset when a person just dresses like they think how it would look, and then they openly, like, to every single person they meet, just shove down their throats, I am goth. That's my problem with it. Because we had back when, like, I was still studying, in the design school, we had this one person who every day, and I was astounded by this, every day heavy white and black makeup, like scrunched up hair, like when you like think like of the traditional, like music wise, I think they also were listening to the correct, or like the one that fits into the specific subgenre.
Yeah, like Kero
and I
Bonito.
like some people were like, especially the teachers were like, oh my god, like that's horrible, like, they look horrible. Meanwhile, I'm just seeing them in the hallway and I go, I mad respect for you to do that every day.
Yeah, we didn't have anyone that interesting. We just had like a guy that wore a suit to school every day. That was the most exciting we got. And then he left school and came back to do a little bit of extra assisting as a teacher.
Right.
Same fucking suit. Anyway.
Do you think he ever washed it?
I think he just had like a bunch of the same suit. I think it's like one of those cartoon things, like Homer Simpson opens his closet and it's just white shirts.
It sounds like kind of like a neurodivergent thing.
Yeah, it could be.
Honestly, it could be.
You like numbers.
The only reason why I don't have the same of like 3 pairs of the same pants is because when I was younger, I asked my mom, could we buy 2 of these? She would be like, no, why the hell would you do that? Like, really wanted to have like the same pair, like 3 pairs of like jeans, like same thing, and she was like, no. Why would you?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to be like like a Sims character. You just have one outfit every day, one formal outfit, one party outfit, and you just like flip through those, and you're fine. In cold weather, you only got the one, nothing else.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I get kind of being upset, but I've always been like against.
I'm not upset in the aspect of like I'm gonna go openly and attack the person.
Yeah.
It's just like a me thing where it's like I'm subconsciously like thinking like I don't like that, but I'm not gonna go up to the person and go like,
yeah. I mean,
sometimes I don't even bring it up with other people.
Yeah, I mean, my best friend in high school, she was a metalhead. But she would also, but okay, this is like standard for metalheads to be like, oh, you listen to that genre. Well, that's not metal. and then you like check anywhere
That's
on
kinda funny.
and then check anywhere and it's like, well, it is though, and it has metal in the name. Well, it's like, yeah, but it's not real metal though. And then you fucking look up what it is, and it's like, you know, they say like specifically, what was it? I think it was. I forget what Slipknot counts as, like progressive metal or whatever, and they were like, well, it's not really metal, and you're like, well, it.
I did find it funny how like I went to a person who's like 30.
Mm-hmm.
We have known each other for 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to him and I was like, yeah, I started listening to black metal.
Mm-hmm.
Which group? Mayhem. It's like, that's not black metal. What do you mean it's not? It's like, well, that doesn't sound like black metal. I'm like, Norwegian black metal. No, it's not it.
Yeah.
I was just like, full, like, open, like, wide eyes, like, what?
Yeah.
What is Mayhem then?
I don't know, and that's the other part of it, where a lot of it times, you know, and you know, we can bring it back to the goths and being like, oh, that's not a real goth, that is a real goth. You're like, okay, so that's not a real goth. What is it then? What is that girl dressing as if she's not, you know, dressing goth?
There was that other debate where I was like, yeah, like that kind of gave a try to Burzum. And then they're like, that's not black metal. I'm like, do you?
That's Nazi metal.
Do you?
That's just Nazi metal.
Yeah, but like back on the topic of Mayhem, it's like, what is it then?
It's something that
because I have always like known it as like, yeah, that like Mayhem is the group that created Norwegian black metal. It's not black metal.
You know, let's just relax. Let's give it a couple of 100 years, and then the same as we do with everything that came before us. We're like, oh, that's classical music. All of this will just
Mayhem's
be classical. It'll just be classical music. It's fine. Oh, it came before the 28th century. That's just classical music. It's fine. We just gotta give it a while, and it'll all be fine.
Yeah, because nothing after World War II is considered as history currently. That's what I was told.
Who the fuck told you that?
My old history teacher. He was like, well, no, actually, not my history teacher. No, it was my history teacher, but not the one that I was thinking of. It was like a female. She was like, yeah, schools don't acknowledge anything after World War II to be considered as like history currently. It's like still ongoing. So the Cold War.
I was gonna say, we were taught about the Cold War though.
We were not. After World War II, the history ends. It's like, I'm actually interested in Cold War. I know about Cold War because like I do my own research, but like she was like, no. And I remember like I personally didn't like that teacher, and like a lot of people from my course didn't like it.
Yeah.
Didn't like her because like she was teaching us about the French Revolution, which used to be one of my hyperfixations. So I know extensively about it.
Yeah.
And she would teach me, and I would just be like sitting there like doodling, like I'm not listening anymore. And then after the lesson, I'm like, did you know that blah 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 blah? And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, that's why I wasn't fucking listening to, because I clearly know more about the topic.
Yeah. I mean, you go to university and you will have a more fun experience, like history university, where every teacher, that's like every lecturer, every professor, the thing they're speaking about is basically their hyperfixation, and they can't shut the fuck up about it. So
I had a history teacher like that.
Yeah.
He was ranting about, I think actually the Cold War, considering that he kind of was a part of it, I think, like during that time.
I mean, everyone was a part of the Cold War. Wasn't like actual.
I know.
But so
I know.
Everyone was a part of
in
it.
the aspect that he got sent somewhere during that time, and
Afghanistan?
Maybe.
Probably. Everyone. We had professors as well.
Because he was like ranting, like he was like, yeah, we used to steal watermelons during that time. It's like, what?
Watermelon. Okay, I don't know if it's Afghanistan
anymore. But the thing
anymore.
is, like, back then, like, I don't know, like, you listen to, like, stories of, like, soldiers who were sent outside of the country.
Yeah.
Right? For example, my dad. And he, like, goes, oh, yeah, we stole apples. And I'm like, which soldier has not stolen something from a garden at this point? Because every single person I talk to, they're, like, different kind of, like, fruit or vegetable. And I'm like, are we, like, filling up the basket? What's happening here?
I mean, in the Soviet era, it makes sense. They were hungry.
They were hungry.
They were
yeah,
hungry
like, he
as
was
hell,
like
so-
watermelons, apples, like oh yeah, we were just like kind of we got caught once. I'm like,
That was the first time seeing an apple in 30 years. We had to take it.
yeah, it was really ripe and pretty, you know.
Yeah.
It was really ripe.
Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, we had a teacher, because I just remember because you mentioned the French Revolution, a teacher, a lecturer who was really obsessed with two things. Napoleon, she fucking loved Napoleon. Like
I love
to
Napoleon as well.
Why?
Because
He's a cunt.
No, I don't like condemn. Condone. Thank you. I was thinking of that, but I was like, which one's the correct one? I don't condone what he did, obviously, but you have to admit some of the stuff that he did was like kind of mad impressive.
Like telling his wife not to wash her pussy?
No, I'm more thinking of the war strategies.
No, that's not as impressive actually.
Well, back then it was.
I mean, there were points where, yeah, it was like impressive, but then, you know, remember...
Because he was depending on like, I think that he had like a 3-pointer of
He was really good at...
speeds, knowing the area, like,
I would
smaller.
I would say he was really good at tactics, not so much strategy. Everyone else just sucked ass equally at strategy.
I feel like they just had their like noses in the clouds and just didn't recognize what he was doing up until like whenever. But I did find it funny how he just gets sent to one island, he comes back, so they send him to a different island that's guarded, and he's like, I'm not getting out of this one, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were just really trying to get rid of him constantly. I found that like kind of funny.
And then he fucking finally dies, and guess what? The next Napoleon comes along, he's like, hey, I'm here now. So, yeah, I was gonna say that was her one obsession, and second obsession was the American South, and like westerns, but also like
the Civil War.
The Civil War, and she was like, she had some weird comments about the South, how she wasn't more in support of them than most people should be. Yeah, are we closing in on it now?
Yeah.
Oh shit, we actually are. Yeah, I guess.
Are you trying to avoid the topic or what?
No, I just I don't know if there's anything else to add to the topic except the action.
I mean, I personally like I do know like fair share of like the Civil War, definitely, because I did research that a bit as well, but I did not find it as interesting. Before I say anything else, I will disclose that by interesting I mean like just knowing things rather than like going, oh, that's cool. Because now why I'm disclosing this is because I find World War II and specifically the genocide to be more interesting than the Civil War. That's why I'm disclosing this, because like it's not like, oh, that was sick. I'm obviously not in support of this. It was fucking horrific. But I am interested in the, like, kind of mental gymnastics that you have to get to in order to kind of justify killing an entire race of people.
Yeah.
That is where it's, like, interesting, I guess.
It's interesting also from the aspect of how if you read, like, any part of Mein Kampf, you're like, he was so shit at, like, arguing this as well, and he's a terrible writer. How did this happen? He was like... I guess he was the same as a lot of us in university where we're like, what we've written is complete bullshit, but I really gotta sell it now when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I really gotta sell this point, otherwise I'm gonna fail my entire 4 years here. You know, saw some people pull it off, I guess.
Yeah.
We're lucky that they didn't go to art school.
While I'm saying that, like, I'm fascinated and, like, really interested over the genocide, what I, like... despise, and I have heard so many stories like this from my teachers and like just online finding out this information of people, tourists from a certain country that is not going to be named because we don't want those people to come in the comments and just start berating, but specific country coming to Poland, to Auschwitz. Mm-hmm. And going into the rooms rooms. They were
Yeah.
really, they looked
Yeah.
more like barns or like
Yeah.
even worse than that. And going like, yeah, there's no air conditioning in here. Like, it's kind of cold in here. I don't like it here. Like, it's kind of disgusting. I want to leave. Like, the amount of respect for a place like that is, like, zero.
Yeah.
Like, and that just disgusts me, so.
I mean,
Hi.
Hello.
I mean, it also. This is gonna be an interesting thing to end the video on, I guess, because it is reaching an hour.
Yeah.
The couple of I guess quite a few years ago, there was like a huge heat wave, like massive heat all across Europe, right? And the people were like figuring out how to make places outside, especially in the sun, more accessible and make it more comfortable to be there, including museums. I don't remember if it was Auschwitz or if it was specifically another camp in Germany, where they were like, okay, we have a solution here. So they set up outside. Can you take a guess of what they set up in like Auschwitz or something?
Was it a gas chamber?
No. How would a gas chamber cool you off?
Okay.
It was a shower.
That is literally
lots
the
of showers.
same.
Well, it's not
That
a
is
chamber. It's not.
It's the same thing.
Well, it's the reverse.
No. What I mean by that is when
Yes, they were told they were going to a shower.
They're going to a
But
shower.
this was an actual like water showers. But
Point still stands.
yeah,
Why would
not good optics. Not. So the moral of the day's story is. If someone tells you...
Don't take candy from a baby.
Take condoms instead.
And so, you know how... You know when... I'm not going to finish the joke. It's something about telling incels to take a shower. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, please don't.